Hello everybody, today I just want to show you how to work this super simple, super easy drop stitch cable using a crochet hook. I love using this cable on my knits because you work it after you are done knitting, so before you cast off. And in this case, this is a sweater, so before we join the shoulders together, we are going to work this cable to create a wonderful textured cable that really shows off the subtle color changes in my cardigan design. Now, I wanted to show you guys how I work this because I just want everyone to have a successful and easy go at this because the first time you work it, it may be a little bit daunting because you are ripping down your knitting to create this cable. And I just want to set up everybody for success. And I don't want anyone to be scared because trust me, this is a very easy technique to do. It just seems a little bit scary. And I'm just going to follow the pattern. And what my pattern says to work until one stitch past the marker, and that's what I did already. And now I'm just going to work the drop stitch cable. And to do that, I am going to slip the next 3 stitches off the needle. Okay. And now you're going to drop these stitches down. So I already did this off camera, but before you drop down, you may want to follow your line of stitches all the way down to make sure that you didn't miscount anywhere. Because what if your stitch marker jostled a little bit as you were working? And what if your stitch marker is over here and you try to drop down and you're not going to be able to drop down to the full sweater? So what I'm trying to say is before you completely drop down, visually drop down and make sure that your stitches are going down in that straight line and that you are on the correct path. Because once you drop down, even though you can pick these stitches back up and no one would know the difference, we don't want to do that. We want to just rip down once and get this over with as quick as possible. Also, before dropping down, I like to count my stitches to make sure I have the correct number of stitches. So that way I know I'm in the correct place. And now I double checked my work. I made sure my drop down is the correct path. I make sure I am in the correct area. I'm going to start dropping down. And so what I do to do this, first I pull my needles. So that way everything is hanging. There's a lot of knitting over here, so I don't have a ton of space to work with pulling out my needles, but I just want to create slack. And now you can use your fingers or a extra needle tip, but do you see those 3 stitches? There's a bar connecting those 3 stitches. I'm going to use my press-on nails. You can use a needle for this too, and just gently pull it out. Okay. And once all the stitches are cleared and pulled out, I do the next bar. It's really important to do this bar by bar because say if I pull the next bar and I'm not completely done and I don't realize I didn't pull all 3 stitches, I can actually get a knot in my work if I continue to pull down. And unfortunately, that's the only way this can go wrong is if you make a knot in your work, don't realize, continue pulling, and then you can accidentally rip your yarn. And even though that's fixable, we're trying not to fix anything. So I know this part can be incredibly boring. It bores me to tears when I do it. I'm not even gonna lie. But just very slowly pull it down. Also, in my design, I'm using mohair. So sometimes the little hairs can get caught in each other. And the funny thing about mohair is, believe it or not, when you're using lace weight mohair, it's never usually 100% mohair because mohair has really short fiber length. I think it's called a staple length. I can't remember. Oh my goodness. So what that means is that the short fiber lengths are usually wrapped around a stronger fiber. In this case, using the Baracco Aereo, it's silk. So the mohair is wrapped around the silk. In some cases, it's like a polyamide, which is a synthetic fiber. What I'm trying to say here is that if I'm pulling and my mohair is getting caught, like the hair is getting caught, it's okay to pull those hairs out. The integrity of your yarn will still be intact. It'll be perfectly fine because you got that long, strong fiber in the core of that yarn. Does that make sense? I hope that made some sense. So if you see fraying in your mohair, if you're using mohair like I am, just keep going. It's perfectly fine. The mohair will survive. Now, if you're using 100% mohair, which look, see, this is what I mean, like the little floofy parts of the mohair is stuck. Just very gently free it. Now, if you're using 100% mohair, which I rarely see, whenever I see it, that's usually in a specialty situation, then you have to be super careful here. But usually when you're buying mohair yarn from the yarn shop, your local yarn shops, it's going to have that deliciously strong yarn mixed in it to make this process even easier. Okay, so I am going slow and steady here. And see that part got a little stuck? Very gently. There we go. And nothing ripped. The integrity of the yarn is still there. There we go. And I am going to pull this all the way down. Look how wide this looks. Look how scary this looks. It looks like you've ruined your project. This is exactly what we need. We need all this extra yarn to create that delicious bulky cable that looks so gorgeous. And some drop stitch cable patterns, they have you slip these 3 stitches that you are going to cable up. And they do that because it's less ripping out. However, I found when I did that, it didn't have enough of this slack in your yarn to create that bulky cable that we're trying to create. So if you ever seen a different way of doing this, just I recommend staying to what I wrote in the pattern versus going off the beaten path, because that may affect the tension of your cable. It may pull in more, and it also may not look as fluffy. So here I'm down to the ribbing, and a good way to tell too is that you can see this knit stitch is going to be pulling forward. So that's how that's a great way to tell because it's not flat anymore. The ribbing is kind of ribbing, if that makes sense. And so that's a great way to tell, but honestly, it's not a big deal. So these stitches are going to be quite small. And my crochet hook, I'm using an N 9mm crochet hook. It's quite big. So I have to use my fingers to help pull these on to my ginormous crochet hook. Once we get the first stitch in there, we won't have to manipulate it this hard. Okay, so I put all 3 stitches on my crochet hook, and I'm going to treat these 3 stitches as if they are one. Now in pattern, it says to use a crochet hook to grab and pull 5 strands of yarn, and I am counting 2 strands here. So 1 strand of the worsted weight and 1 strand of the mohair as 1 strand, okay? And that's written in pattern as well. And you're going to pull these 5 strands of yarn through these 3 stitches. Now, you're looking at the 3 stitches and the 5 strands of yarn, and that's a lot to pull through. So I'm going to use my fingers to manipulate. So I am going to first make sure I grab on 5 consecutive strands. 1, 2, make sure I'm pulling them in order. 3, 4, 5. Okay. You may want to recount before you continue. Okay. Now I am going to slide these strands under the hook of the crochet hook, and I am actually going to use my fingers to pull these stitches through. And the first stitch is the hardest. This is the most fiddliest, but once you get past this, it is smooth sailing. I'm going to twist it See if I can pull the first one through. I did it. Now let's pull the second one through. Good job. And now let's pull the third one through. Can we do it? We did it. Okay. Look at your work and make sure everything looks good. Make sure we didn't miss a stitch. We'll go into what missing a stitch looks like here in a minute when I inevitably miss a stitch. But now the pattern says you should now have one stitch on your crochet hook. I do. We're counting that those 5 strands as one stitch. Next, the next row says continue pulling 5 strands of yarn through the stitch. So let's continue pulling. 1, 2, 3, and try to go in order. 3, 4, 5. See, I missed a couple. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And you just pull it through. Ta-da! And we're going to keep going. The next 5. 1, 2, 3. Try to keep it in order. 4, 5. And then pull it through. Next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull it through. And now after every few stitches, flip your work over and make sure it looks clean on the back. It's very easy to miss a strand, and that strand would just be floating back there. And it's fine if you miss one and don't realize it until, until the sweater is done. But the reason why I'm being so careful is because this is going to be a sample. And also because I don't want the models or whoever owns the sweater later on, I don't want their fingers to get caught in it and snag it. And so it's just best practice to keep checking as you go. Okay, that's 5. Beautiful. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Also, don't worry about any gaping happening back here. Once everything is seamed up and blocked, it's all going to fluff back out and look beautiful. If you do happen to have gaping from uneven tension or what have you, you can go in with scrap yarn and a tapestry needle to tighten it up. That should not be necessary though. Like that's like worst case scenario if your knitting tension was off. So 3, 4, 5. Look at that. They're twinning. All right, I'm going to make sure I didn't miss any. Go on the back. And look, I did. Can you see that? It's supposed to look like almost like little knots in the back of your work. But here I missed 2. Hello. So I'm just going to very carefully rip back. It's very easy. It's not the end of the world. As soon as I stopped checking and got confident, it happens. There we go. Did I get it? Nope, one more. Okay. Literally as soon as I stopped checking. That's okay. Slide these on the needles. Make sure I still have, do I have one extra? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure I got my 5 on there. Okay. Try not to miss any this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, I went out of order, so I'm gonna pick that one up. 5. Double check, make sure I fixed my mistake. I did. And just continue on your merry way. I'm gonna hook all this up to the top and I'll catch you when I get there. I'll just do this last one first. 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. And it's okay if they're sisters instead of being twins. It's perfectly fine. This is more of an organic cable versus your traditional one. Okay, I'll catch you. The next one. Okay, so I am almost at the end of my cable here, but I wanted to stop here and share with you guys what to do when you're getting towards the end. So towards the end here, you may have to divvy up these strands differently to create even stitches towards the end. But for me, I ended with 10 left over. 3, 4, 5. And I'm just going to work as I normally have. There we go. And now it says in pattern, once all drop stitches are worked, place the stitch back onto your left needle. And when I place it back, I'm going to insert my needle this way. So through the front. So that way I am not twisting my beautiful stitch. And then I will work this stitch as a normal stitch. Take my working yarn that's still attached. And I am just going to work this giant stitch as one. And there you have it. I did pull it a little tight there just for now. But there you go. It's so fluffy and pretty. Oh, I love this stitch. I've been dying to use this stitch forever. I just been looking for an excuse. And then just to clarify, I did tighten the stitch just because I was dropping it and I was showing you guys and I didn't want it to be loose and slide off. It's not something you have to do. I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes. Now here, if there's things you don't like about it, you go in and you can fluff, unfluff, tighten, mess with it. You can do this now to see if you like the way your braid looks, or you can wait till after you block and fluff it as you would a normal cable. But look, guys, and look how it wraps. This is the arm of your sweater. And so you have it on either side. Oh my gosh. I hope you guys love this tutorial. I hope it helped. Happy knitting, everybody. You got this. Thank you. Bye.